Welcome everyone, today we have a new guide for Diablo 4, and in this video we'll be looking at the leveling build for the Necromancer from level 1 to level 50. We'll also be going through my notes of going for the Codex for Act 1 to Act 5 for the Necromancer, and you guys can see the highlight of the Codex for each of the parts of the dungeons in the region, and also what you get from those dungeons. So some of those campaigns and also dungeons will be unlocking summonings and also bone build and also different build for the Necromancer. Now coming over to the first part of the video. So what I want to do is I want to provide you guys with a variety of different builds that you can go with Necromancer when leveling. So the first build I have for you guys is going to be a Bone Spear build. And the second build will be a Summonings build. So what we do is let's go through how I want to level the Necromancer and also what is the best concept behind it. Then we go through two of those builds briefly at the end of this part. So right away with the Necromancer, what I recommend is I recommend going with Decompose at the start, or you can go with a Bone Splinter. Both are pretty good at the start, and you do want to have an additional essence with Decompose. After that, at the start of the game, we can go with Bone Spear because this just deals a little more damage. And we'll be going with Bone Spear that makes enemies more vulnerable, and this actually allows us to deal the multipliers with this way. Now once we get the Bone Spear to level 2 and over here, we can unlock the Corpse Explosion, and this will deal the most damage for us as the Necromancer using the corpses. I'll be going with a few points with Corpse Explosion, and yes, you can go with a Corpse Explosion that deals damage over time. During this time, I can also consider myself to go with more points into Bone Spear or maybe more points into Healed Flesh for more corpses. It is optional. So here I might go with 1 point over here, and this takes us to the Corruption section. But ideally, we don't really need the corruptions, so we'll be going to max level the Bone Spear, and also we'll try to max level the Corpse Explosion. While doing so, we also want additional resource and also additional damage while, using the corpses, so I'll be going for some points over here. Now around this time, I'll be level 22, and very soon I have my, Bone Storm, and once I get to level 25, I also have my Golems as well. So as you go for the Book of the Dead, I recommend going with a Skeleton Summoners that has a big attack damage, and this also benefits from hitting vulnerable enemies to reduce the cooldowns. As for the Skeleton Mages, I like to go with multiple attacks, so additional 1 attack after 5th attack. So coming back to our tree, now what you can see is I probably will go with 1 point into Blood Mist and also maybe some points into the Bone Prison just to trap enemies and also provide vulnerabilities after. Around level 24, what I want to do is I want to get my ultimate, which is going to be the Bone Storm. This is both defensive and also offensive. This spell will also be cast around the Bone Golem, or the Golems we summon, which is actually additional damage. So as for the points of the Golem, at the start of the game, around level 25, you are going to have the choice of the first section of the Golem. So what I recommend is going with a Golem that provides more corpses is always the best way. Now around this time, notice that we do have a lot of active spell slots that is not enough for the the minions and also for the summons. So this is when we start to kind of This is when we go into variety of the build, into the sacrificial build and also into the summoners build. So what I want to do is, if I'm going for the summoners build, this is what I want to slowly transition into. So first, let me show you guys what I plan to do at this moment. If I'm planning to sacrifice the skeleton minions and keeping my golems, what I want to do is I want to have at least 5 active spells with 1 slot for the golems. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and we can be keeping the Blood Mist or the Bone Prison up to us. And if I do keep the Bone Prison, if I keep the Blood Mist, I'll go with the Blood Mist that provides us with more corpses. So this method will be getting additional corpses and we'll be getting ways to get levels up. So this way we can be getting additional corpses and then we'll be sacrificing our skeleton minions, which will provide us with additional critical chance, and also over here we'll be going with additional damage with vulnerable enemies at the start. But eventually we'll transition into maximum essence. Now around this time, we'll start to transition into the first build, which is going to be the sacrificial build. So notice where we start to sacrifice minions, right? So what I want to do is I want to go into Bone Splitter, which also allows us to have the chance of vulnerability, and this is going to start to curve into the bone build. So over here, we'll go with additional points into the bone spells that provide us with a lot of benefits. And as we level up those bone spells, you can pick which one is the most beneficial for you. And as you level up those bone spells, what you want to do is you want to get to level 35 and then go into also fight essence. And once you have this, your maximum essence now provides you with more damage. So this is going to be essential. And then we come over here to get maximum essence with the skeleton mages. And then we'll come over here to get maximum essence and also more damage with our bone spells. Now, because we'll be sacrificing minions, we can also be benefiting from the damage reaction and also additional sacrificial bonus from the skeleton warriors and also skeleton mages. And finally guys, if you guys are planning to not use the golems, what I do recommend is we can be sacrificing the golems for additional critical damage. So if you guys are not planning to use the golems, we can sacrifice the golems. And in doing so, we can also use the corpse tendrils, which will provide us with additional ways of dealing damage and also vulnerability. So this is when we come over to the first leveling build for the Necromancer, which I recommend is going to be the Necromancer Sacrificial Minion build that uses the Bone Spears and also the Corpse Explosion to do tremendous damage. We have defensive capacities, we have a bit of utility, and also we deal lots more damage as we level up. Now, in case you guys are wondering, yes, we do have an alternative summoning build that can help us leveling too. So if you guys are going for the summoning build, I still recommend going with Decompose and getting to the Bone Spear at the start of leveling. But as you go further, you're going to go into the Skeleton Warrior summonings of the Mastery, and then you're going to come over to the Skeleton Mage Mastery. And finally, you do want to go into the Bone Storm once you're level 25 and get into the Golden Mastery. So what you want to do is you want to make use of your summons, and this is when our summons can be summoned over here for the Skeleton Rapiers and also to go with the Shadow Mages over here. We'll also try to perk our golems as we go higher levels. So at the start of the golems, we'll go with golem that drops corpses. And eventually we want to go with golems that increase damage when they have maximal life over 80%. Now over here it is optional that if we're going for the ultimate that provides us with Bone Storm or with Army of the Dead. If you find your minions to be dying a lot, you can be going with Army of the Dead, which can be very beneficial for the summonings build. And what I do recommend is, I do recommend coming over to the points over here, which gives you the best benefit while healthy and while staying far from enemies to be dealing more damage. Of course, at level 35, you should be going for one of the minion summoning abilities. And because we'll be keeping our distance as a summoner, we can go with Ken's Edit, which provides us with more additional attack speed for the minions. Now as we go through the build, we'll go with some of the passive that provide us with more distance damage, and also we'll go with any of the passive that provide us with more utility with the summons, which includes getting more corpses and also dealing more damage. So here what I want to do is, I want to show you guys the alternatives at around level 20 to 25 that you can be going into a summoning build or you can be going with a bone build. And I have those available to you guys from level 1 to level 50 as the links to the build over here. So you guys can pick how you want to level the Necromancer from level 1 to level 50. Now if you guys haven't subscribed, it is a really good time to do so, because I'll be covering tons of Diablo 4 related topics and also videos and also guides. We'll be looking to the top meta builds, non-meta builds, leveling up, and also Paragon tricks. We're also looking to the latest events and also official updates and also changes to different characters and also different builds in the game. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and also turn the notification on, because a lot of you who are watching the videos have not subscribed. You can see 80% of the viewers who are watching our videos have not subscribed, so make sure you subscribe to stay tuned for the latest update for Diablo 4. Now coming over to the second part of the video. So over here we do have the notes for the Codex planner for Act 1 to Act 5 for the Necromancer. And similar to the previous ones guys, you can find those in the links below. And here I have the Codex for the colors. So basically I'm saying the red ones are really good, the yellow ones are pretty good, the green ones are, half-half, the blue ones are so-so. And I also have left out some Codex which I don't think they're really good. So starting with the first region, we have about 5 Codex of interest. And most of those are not that essential unless you're going for a build. For me, because I'll be going for a Necromancer summoning build or maybe a Necromancer bone build for the leveling up. So those are the 2 top choices for the Codex of the dungeons I'll be going for. So it's going to be North Tower and also Black Asylum. And you can see the location of those dungeons. So Black Asylum is going to be over here, and the North Tower dungeon is located over here in the Act 1. Now of course guys, if you're going for a blood build, you also have some nice codex that you can find in those dungeons. And finally, if you're going for the Lost Archive for the shield against elites, you can be finding the dungeon over here where my mouse is. So I am trying to use a different interactive map, and the links to this interactive map, which is from Frax Life, will be available in these notes. Now as we move over to Act 2 for the Necromancer, what you're going to see is there are some really nice ones. So as you go through the campaign, the Necromancer will gain a very nice, codex which allows the skeletons to deal more damage while alive. Up to 20% damage with the codex after 10 seconds. So this one's going to be interesting, and if you do find your minions staying alive a lot, this can be really good. You can of course try to stand still to do more damage as well. Now over here, you can see that if you're going with the Shiver build, there's a decent codex over here. And I need to delete this. This is actually from the rogue part. I need to take this out. And if you're going for the Bone Spirit, which I do think is very, very situational, this can be a good, dungeon to go for. And finally, for any of the build, if you're going for Old Stone or Underroot, those are really good 2 dungeons to be going for more damage with resource, and also to be doing more damage after casting your basic spells with your core spells. So those 2 dungeons are definitely good. Now, because during the recording of this video, we will not have the official information of the Act 2, that's why I didn't have the map for you guys. But once we have the official information, we'll be updating those maps for each of the acts. Now, as we keep going to the 3rd act, which is going to be Dry Steps. So over here, we have 2 really good dungeons I recommend. So the bonus attack speed to basic spells will be really good for most of the class. And also the damage reduction with basic spells is also really good for most of the class. Now for the Necromancer, there isn't anything that's too specific. You can be dealing a bit of more damage with Bone Prison, you can be getting more Blood Orbs with Essence when full life, and you can be getting a little more resource regeneration, but those are not massive. So if you guys are going for the Dry Steps, I recommend for the Necromancer to rush through the story to be unlocking this particular Codex, which is going to be essential and also one of the core Codex for the Necromancer to be the offensive ones with your Bone Splinters. So adjusting for the small typo over here, so unlocking the chapter 3 for the campaign, your Bone Spears will now deal vulnerability after the first target, and this will also grant 50% bonus damage to the vulnerable targets with a Bone Shard which came from the Bone Spear, and this also allows the spell to pierce. So this means this spell is going to be a big upgrade for the Bone Spear, and if you guys are going for the Bone Spear Mage, which is a sacrificial mage with the Necromancer, this is going to be one of the essential codex at Act 3. And because we get this codex for free by clearing the campaign for Act 3, what I recommend is, for Act 3, we go through the campaign first, then we come back to clear the dungeons for the additional codex we wanted. Now as we come over to Act 4, you can see there's a really nice dungeon called the Faceless Shrine, and this will allow us to have the summoning build. So this is when the Army of the Dead is activated, the minions will get 70% attack speed and also 90% damage reduction. And this will be essential if you're going for the summoning build that we talk about over here. And other than that, if you're going for the sacrificial build, you can have this codex at the ruin of Idaru, and this will allow us to have additional bonus for sacrificial minions. And of course, if you guys have seen our previous video, which we talk about the endgame for Necromancer with the summoning build, and also endgame from Necromancer without the summoning build, you can see that there is a codex called the Shadow Blight Keystone. And this allows the shadow damage to be dealt from the Necromancer, and also the Necromancer mages, the skeleton mages, to deal more damage. So if you're going for this build, which is gonna be this one, so I have the links available for you guys. If you're going for this alternate ration of the build, this codex will be very good. Now the other codex in Act 4 seems to be a little optional. I did list them, but see if you guys want to go with them. And finally, coming over to Act 4. I still recommend going for the Shavata Ruins for most of the classes, because Critical Strike will provide you with bonus movement. And for classes like the Necromancer, we don't have that much mobility. Now if you guys are looking for more defensive capacities, the Hell of the Dam is also really good. Other than that, I don't think any of those codex will be massive, because I don't think we'll be going with both the Cripplify and then also Iron Maiden for the 30% more damage. And also, we're going with Corpse Tendrils. This can be good, because if you come over here, our leveling bone build, we do have the capacities to use the Corpse Tendrils, simply because we have the additional slots for sacrificing minions. So if you guys are going with this leveling build with one of the alternatives, you can use the Corpse Tendrils to have the additional chance of critical and also more critical damage. Now by going through the campaign in Act 5, you'll also be unlocking the Thorns damage AoE, but I don't think the Thorns damage Necromancer is going to be that big deal. This can be great for the Barbarians, but for Necromancer it is going to be so-so. So let me know guys, which of the build of the method of leveling are you going to go for? Are you going to go for the Necromancer with summons? Or are you going to go for the Necromancer with a sacrificial method? And also, which of the codex and so dungeons would you be most interested in? For me, if I'm going to level up the Necromancer, I'll either decide to see if my skeleton minions are dying a lot. If they're dying a lot, I probably will go with a sacrificial build. If they're not dying a lot, I'll go with my skeleton summons. So this is why over here I have highlighted the codex for both of the build, for the bone build and also for the summons build for you guys. Now, before you go, and if you guys didn't know, we have a new YouTube channel. And if you guys haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe and check out the behind the scenes and also fun clips and also more stories about us. And then you get to know me a little more personally instead of just reading the news and also the games, right? So I want to share a little bit more with you guys. So make sure you check this channel out if you're interested about Matt and also Uni. She's really funny too. And she's really shy. So I want to give her a surprise and do a shout out for the new channel to get some subscribers. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys next time.